Hello, Sonor family. Jules here, and today I want to talk about Sonor's 150th anniversary. Um, for as long as I can remember, every time an anniversary ends in five or zero, they always have some special product releases and all that. And the 150th anniversary has been no exception by far. But I want to take a closer look at what they've got going on, and I want to take a look at this from the standpoint of a guy myself who's been a Sonor nut since 1985, and also just from a general observer. So, for the 150th anniversary, they came out with, at the first of the year, they came out with the four shell packs. You got the Sonor Light and the Sonor Signature in two different configurations. The Heritage for the guys that like the deeper toms. My personal preference, if I were going to buy one, would be the Sonor Light and the Heritage. I like the deeper toms. I personally like, I've come to realize I like the sound of birch. That would be ideal for me. In addition to that, they had the uh, HLD 590 reissue, which for the 150th anniversary, they released 100 of these snare drums. And the irony is, uh, they've basically sold out. There's one for sale out of Germany right now. And I'm sure that some other stores around the globe have some that haven't sold. But generally, all your major retailers either never had the opportunity to get one to start with or have already sold theirs. Makes you wonder why they didn't do 150 of them. Now, I know from a marketing and merchandising standpoint, if you make something too accessible, there's no sense of urgency. And a sense of urgency when you're dealing with what in the U.S. is about almost a $5,500 snare drum. Uh, sense of urgency is important because if you it's a what they call a panic sale. If I don't buy it right now, I'm not going to get it. Um, and so, I kind of halfway get the 100 snare drums out of the 150th anniversary. At the same time, I wonder if looking back, if they would do this again, if they would do it different. So back to the panic sale idea. They've got very limited offerings of the shell packs, which would make you think that people that are going to want those are going to snatch them up quickly. Now, these are expensive shell packs, but comparatively to the $5,500 or yeah, $5,500 snare drum, I don't think the shell sets are outlandishly priced. These are a once in a lifetime opportunity, really. And I mean, even just from a standpoint of collectability as an investment, uh, maybe a great purchase. And I kind of get why you didn't see so much selling as a pre-order, but now that they're actually in stock, ready to ship, um, I'm not seeing much movement. And I've watched several places. I'm going to go over that with you. What I have seen is I've watched on Reverb. Bentley's Drum Shop has got the two Sonor Light sets available. What they don't have showing on Reverb is the two signature shell sets. So I don't know if they didn't get offered those, if they opted not to buy them, or if they pre-sold them immediately before I saw them. Now they could have hit the site, the Reverb site before I saw them. Or you know what? Maybe they put those up for later. Maybe they're going to, 10 years down the road, uh, sell them for a high markup. Who knows? Who knows what they've got going on? Sweetwater, um, oddly, only has three shell sets that I've ever seen available on their site. So I don't know if you would think being the biggest music retailer on the planet, uh, you would think they would have everything available, but I never saw that they had the HLD 590. But they could have actually had two or three of those allocated, and salespeople or people within the organization wanted them, and put dibs on them before they ever had a chance to hit the site. And that could be the same with the Heritage Sonor Signature shell set, which is the only shell set they don't currently have on the site and that I've never seen on the site. The other three retailers that have kind of kept my finger on the pulse are the Drum Shop out of Portland, Maine, Drum Center of Portsmouth, and Atlanta Drum Shop, who has also has one of each one allocated. Um, and that hasn't changed. So there, with those retailers, I haven't seen any change in quantities available since they hit the websites, and I just find that really odd. What's going to remain to be seen and quite interesting, I believe, is whether you start to see videos, product review videos. What I'm interested to see is whether or not we get to see any product review videos. Uh, I think there's a lot of virtue to leaving these drums in sealed factory packages. At the same time, if they're not going to sell that way, somebody somewhere is going to take theirs out and set them up and make a video. I halfway it would expect that Drum Center of Portsmouth, out of one of their four shell sets, I really would think they would take one out and do a really in-depth product review. They've got the best product reviews on the planet. Um, and I would expect them to do that potentially. I'd be real surprised if they did that with all four. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do it at all. But if the market is this soft, seems like somebody's going to have to do something to nudge the sales of these drum sets. And probably once they start selling, they'll sell. But why that hasn't started already is beyond me, and I'd have lost a bet on that. So, from a Sonor nut standpoint, when they rolled this out at the beginning of the year, it's a very limited market for that stuff. First of all, there weren't very many snare drums available in the United States, and I am specifically speaking of the United States right now. But they also didn't, the HLD 590 reissue is not a snare drum that is in everybody's scope. Uh, I'm not sure that I would ever want to buy one, not because of the fact it's not a great drum. I'm just not a 14 by 8 guy. I've never had one. I don't have a desire to have one. 5 and 6 inch depths are pretty much where it's at for me. So, uh, I wasn't part of their target audience when they released that stuff. And on the shell sets, I'm financially, like a lot of people, not in a position right now to spend 14 or $15,000 on a shell set. Uh, that's got nothing to do with the value of the drum set, mind you. That's just the fact that me personally, I'm not in a position to pay a $500 payment on a drum set financed at 36 months. And more about that. In case you don't know this, there's no such thing as a free lunch. If you're getting 36 or 48-month financing, your retailer's paying your financing for you. You don't know that, but when Synchrony funds these purchases, when they use the financing, and I think even 24 months is affected, but the longer the financing is, the less of a payout the dealer gets for the purchase. So you can thank your dealer for funding your financing. If you can do a cash deal, you'd be a lot better off, and maybe the retailer can work something out on the purchase on a cash purchase price to kind of offset what they were going to wind up losing for your financing. So if you're in a position to whip out some cash, you may find that there's some negotiation power there. So for a guy like me, that I'm not in the market for any of the really high end stuff they pushed out. Um, I would love to have a couple of t-shirts. I'd probably buy one of every style t-shirt they've got, but as it stands, I can't even buy a freaking Sonor t-shirt at all in the United States. Not unless I get something off of eBay or one of the Facebook pages where people go put those, fake shirts on there. They're real shirts, but they got fake logos with the wrong font and they're not licensed and all that. I don't want that. Um, how can you not have swag? And Zildjian, for their 400th anniversary, they had a complex layout of new swag. And I remember people complaining about the fact They were so focused on swag and so little on new product or whatever for their 400th anniversary. Um, we seem to be the opposite here. Not even the opposite. You've got a very limited market for what you've come out with so far, with one exception we'll come back to, and absolutely zero swag. So we're a third of the way through the year on the 150th year and the 150th anniversary, and you don't see guys in the drum stores or music stores or out on the street or clubs or whatever with their 150th anniversary Sonor shirts. It's like a complete lack of a buzz unless you're buying a $5,500 snare drum or 14 or $15,000 shell set. I don't get it. I just flat don't get it. As a consumer, I would love to have 15 new 150th anniversary t-shirts in my closet. There are people out there who wear logo shirts. And for the last couple of years, you just can't get the Sonor shirts here. The swag I've got several Sonor logo shirts and a very high quality ball cap, all had to come from a retailer in Germany. And so what it's done is it's left a guy like me, and there's a lot of guys like me that aren't going to buy a 14 or $15,000 drum set. And if I was going to potentially buy the HLD 590, I've missed the boat on that anyway. There's nothing for me, with the exception of Guitar Center and Musician Friend have two compressor snare drums in the steel. They've got two different shell sizes of the steel compressors in the 150th anniversary. But what I'm not getting is why there wasn't more of a splash. I mean, how many people watching this don't even know that the compressors are available in a 150th anniversary model in the steel shell drums? And why only two Guitar Center and Musicians Friend? Makes you wonder if they jumped the gun on an embargo and eventually everybody's going to have them. Or maybe when the brass shell ones come out, they go to a specific retail chain or specific drum shop or something. And the same with the aluminum and then the beach. Just don't know. All that remains to be seen. It's kind of mysterious, and maybe that's part of the allure. Maybe they got us wanting more. We're sitting here just anxiously waiting on the next thing so we can jump on that. Uh, but if that is the case, the compressors are really flying under the radar, I believe. I just want to see I can't wait to see how this all unfolds and what happens. As it stands right now, I don't have anything for the 150th anniversary. No t-shirts. Uh, if I wanted to buy the snare drum now, I couldn't. And the shell sets, I would love to have one. As far as the shell sets go, once they do start selling and sale, there's a very limited availability on that in the United States. So, that's not something that a lot of guys are going to have. Um, and, for myself right now, I'm not in the position to spend the $500 a month to get the offered 36-month financing from one of the major retailers. So, other than the compressor steel snare drums, they haven't really put anything in front of me that is a possibility. And I've already got a steel compressor snare drum, so I don't see anything different with the 150th anniversary ones other than the badge. And so, as it stands right now, I'm not buying. And I don't know how many people are in the same boat I am. I don't know what we've got yet to look forward to or whatever. It's just kind of weird. I think a lot more buzz could have been made on the front end of this. Uh, but we'll see what happens. And if by all means, if you've got any comments, any differing observations, if you think I'm way off base or whatever, feel free to respond. I'd love to hear your opinions and views. And maybe we'll do this again with some new options and new things coming out. And we'll talk again.